I just want to spend some time kind of going over maybe some tips and advice for your upcoming exam on Monday. So um, I'm just pulling this off of I think I handed this out maybe a week or two ago. The topics prediction, what I had on the board there, and I put it on a sheet of paper to give you. And then on the back, I just had just some tips. And I just want to kind of highlight a couple of them. Yeah, you want to answer every question. I think in the past they used to be 5 answer choices, and now I think starting 2016 they made it down to just 4 answer choices. So I guess that improves your chance of getting a solution correct. Having only if you're struggling, you just eliminate one wrong choice, you're improving your odds of getting the correct one. So number 2, if you arrive at your solution without using derivative, slope, integral, or area finding formula, then reconsider the approach to the problem. This is kind of an oversimplification. It's not going to always be true, but when in doubt, consider taking a derivative. Because a lot of times the problem is maybe not a derivative away, but a derivative away to get the problem started. Sometimes if everything feels like very abstract, then try to verbalize what they're saying. If they say that f prime is greater than 0, if you can say, oh, f prime is greater than 0, it's increasing. If you can sketch an increasing graph, maybe that can kind of help you visualize some things a little bit better. So sketching a graph helps. I was working with a student yesterday who was still feeling a little apprehensive about FRQs, and I see her working through the problems, and when she was struggling, her natural tendency was just to plug a value into the function and present that as the answer. And I just want to say, in all likelihood on the FRQs, your answer is not just going to be plugging a value into a function. There's always going to be something going on, something calculus related. So most likely it's an integral or it's going to be a derivative. If you see words like, what's the rate of change of this, or is something increasing or decreasing, those are key words that we're trying to look for a rate of change, either slope or derivative. You want to use the limitations of these test writers to your advantage. Like these test writers, they have to ask you these topics that we've learned. Okay, so they're not going to have the ability to pull something out of something from physics that wasn't presented in this class, right? So they're very limited in what they're doing, and everything we did first semester was derivative, everything second semester was integrals. So it's going to be surrounding those topics. So if you're struggling how to get started, consider taking the derivative. That may kind of help get you to begin to see the problem in a different way. Some multiple choice questions can be answered working backwards. You guys know that strategy where sometimes if you're stuck, working backwards can help you get there. Yeah, how was your Blue Book testing experience with multiple choice? Is it easy to mark a question that you have questions about and come back to it later? Or okay, so and then you guys were given enough scratch sheets for whatever other test you're working on, and okay, so I know hopefully second week of testing you'll feel more comfortable with with working with Blue Book. So yeah, search for easier, quicker problems to do first. I feel like a lot of students say that they don't have too much issue with time management and on multiple choice. I think it's mainly the free response that a lot of students feel like they wish they had more time on. But multiple choice, you do have slightly less time on the non-calculator section because 60 minutes, 30 multiple choice, that's averaging 2 minutes per problem. And then here, in the second section, it's 3 minutes per problem. So it almost feels you have too much time here potentially, but I think this is just about right. Some problems won't take that long and other problems will take 4 or 5 minutes, but yeah, just make sure that you're always aware of your time. Is there a timer that you're seeing on your screen? Okay, so that's really helpful that you're always you're being reminded of how much time you have. Yeah, check your calculator, make sure you're always in radian mode. We're never going to be in degree mode. But if you happen to be in degree mode, it's only going to impact you with trig. Okay, it's not going to impact any other situation with your calculator. Only trig is going to give you something that is wrong. So, but yeah, it's good to double check your calculator. Make sure you're in radian mode. Yeah, there's no need to bring a pencil because ideally you're working your FRQ packet in pen. It just comes out easier. It's easier for them to scan. So use blue or black ink. And then, yeah, if you work through something and you realize that's not what you want, just do a simple X cross out, and the graders won't look at anything that you X'd out. So just do a simple cross and then just continue working. Include units with your answer, but they'll only take off points if the problem asks for it. So they can never take the point off if they don't ask you for units. So keep that in mind. Part F, try not to use the word it. We want to be as specific as possible. So if you say just the word graph, or if you just say the function, or if you just say it, it may be obvious what you're referring to, but the graders are specifically instructed that if they see those words that they're not going to know what you're talking about. So if you want to say graph, indicate what you're talking about. Is it graph of f of x? Is it graph of f prime? Is it graph of g prime? If you're writing your justification, try to be as specific as possible. Stay away from very generic terms. On FRQ section, yeah, if you can't do parts A and B, don't assume that you can that you're going to get stuck with C and D. Right? Read through every problem. Sometimes, a lot of times, it is progressively more involved, but sometimes part D is completely unrelated to the previous parts, and it could end up being easier. So make sure that you at least try every part. Review unit circle. You're gonna be asked to evaluate a trig value somewhere along the test, right? And so sometimes it can show up on the FRQ, it can show up on the non-calculated multiple choice section. So yeah, review your unit circle values. Oh yeah, careful with trig functions. Sometimes we see these functions and that cube looks harmless, but it is really preventing you from fully seeing chain rules. So if you ever see a trig function with that shorthand form, take the time to rewrite it. It will benefit you, helping you see the problems a little more clearly. Oh, I got to deal with bracket Q. Then I got to worry about cosine of U times U prime. It's a lot easier to see it from this perspective than here. If you leave it in this form, you make a lot of students do this. They bring the 3 down, they subtract 1 from the exponent, but then they forget, there's still a whole lot going on that I still need to do. It's a lot easier to see all that chain rule relationship if that exponent is sitting out here rather than here. But they're always going to present the problem this way. They're never going to write a trig function this way. Okay, on your formula sheets, I think I gave this out to you guys as well a couple weeks ago. I included formula sheets, key versions as well as blank versions. So I do want to point out that even though there are a bunch of derivative and integral rules, the chances are that the most important ones will show up, and then the less likely ones you're probably not going to see. So I just want to point out what they are. So obviously power rule, and then I think this is a good strategy where when you get your multiple choice test and they give you your spreadsheet, go ahead and write down these 6 rules, okay? Because even though it just looks like 6 rules, it's really 12 rules, right? Because if you have this in front of you, you can work backwards and you can do all the integral rules as well. So I think it's worth the time to spend a minute just to write those 6 rules. At least one of them will show up, either derivative or integral, in your test. And down below here, natural log of u goes to u prime over u. E to the u is e to the u times u prime. And if you see an arc trig, it'll probably be arctangent. But even then, that doesn't always show up. But power rule, natural log, e to the u, trig derivatives, and then maybe arctangent. If you don't memorize the other ones, great. Again, kind of gives you peace of mind, but also just be aware that the top ones are a lot more likely to show up than the ones bit below. And then on the second page 4, integral rules. Obviously, the trig rules that we've already covered for the derivative side, but then also power rule, 1 over u du, and e to the u. And if you're going to see inverse trig integrals, it'll probably be arctangent. I know we haven't seen these y equals ce to the kt problems, but sometimes they're not going to give you that equation. They're going to give you some wording that is going to, and you can take the wording and put it into the equation form. So for instance, if a problem says the rate of change of y is proportional to the value of y, then you know that this is basically talking about y prime equals ky, which is going to turn into y equals ce to the kt. And so if you see this problem, a lot of times you're not even doing calculus. You're just getting it into this form, and they're giving you a bunch of order pairs, and you're solving for c, solving for k, and then making your prediction on the y value. But variations of this could be the rate of change of population is proportional to the value of population. The rate of change of the radium is proportional to the value of the radium. If that's the case, it'll be like b prime equals kb, but it's still going to end up being the same equation. Or it could be population prime equals kp, which will still end up being the same equation. So just be aware of that wording. If you see that wording, you know that they're trying to get you to create this general equation, and then you're just plugging order pairs in to solve your missing variable. A lot of times students see a derivative problem, and they would just either jump into power rule or they'll jump into it. But a lot of times it's chain rule. So expect chain rule to show up. And then also on the integral side, expect u substitution to show up, right? So you're going to have, a lot of, if an integral problem looks difficult or looks strange, typically it's going to be a u substitution problem where they're trying to get you to use that u value substitution to condense it into an easier problem. So consider u substitution if you see an integral problem with parentheses in it. Yeah, so I would also just study your FRQ topics predictions because even though this may not present the order of all the problems, everything you see here are probably going to show up in one way or another on the AP on the FRQ. So if you are kind of expecting these topics to show up, then I think that could be a good way to if you look at a problem and say, wait, what could this be? What have they haven't covered yet? Are they trying to get me to use first theorem? Are they trying to get me to use second theorem? Are they trying to get me to use L'Hopital's rule? So if you're familiar, or if you are aware of these major topics that they're trying to cram into the FRQ, then you can use that to your advantage because you know that, okay, they haven't asked about second theorem yet. They got to ask it somewhere. So is it showing up here? So yeah, if you look at the past year's FRQs, there's only a certain number of ways that they can ask something, and so we want to use their predictability to our advantage. Yeah, so there's a lot of this final position equals initial plus displacement. There's a lot of this application of the first theorem. There's going to be at least one second theorem. Many of you guys have already taken one, if not two, one or more AP exams this week. So is there any advice that you guys have in terms of dealing with Blue Book or something that you wish you had known going into testing that first time, or anyone who may be taking their first AP exam next week? Yeah. Okay. Is that just like a top, like there's a button at the top that allows you to cross out? Okay. And then that will save it even when you come back and okay. Oh, that's nice. Again, on your FRQ section, you're going to be doing everything in your booklet. So all your answers will go in the booklet, but yeah, I don't know if they'll give you any scratch sheet for the FRQ. I think they should give you enough space where you can work everything through, and if you're not happy with that, you can just cross out and still have enough room to work. Wait, have you guys done a hybrid exam yet? Okay. You did them for bio? Did they give you a scratch sheet forever? Okay, so straight on. Okay, so no scratch sheet for FRQ. Just in the packet. This isn't going to be an issue this year, but last year I had a student, because last year was still Scantron for multiple choice, and there was like a number jump between non-calculator and calculator. And this student during the calculator section, he just assumed to keep going. He didn't match up the number. So I think he bubbled in like all the wrong parts of the test and he just lost all those points. And I was just going to be like, okay, lesson learned. I'm going to show students next year where to bubble so they're not making mistakes, but that's not going to be an issue anymore since everything is in Blue Book. But that was unfortunate. The student didn't probably could have passed, but then just put all his answers in the wrong column in the Scantron. What else? Yeah, they'll let you bring multiple calculators. So let's say you have a 36 Pro and a graphing calculator, you can bring both. Sometimes it's easier for students to do one thing in one versus the other, or for some reason one runs out of battery, you still have another one. You also have Desmos available to you in Blue Book, so um, that's another option if you want to graph something in Blue Book, in the Desmos application in Blue Book. That can potentially give you a different look of the function as well of your graph. Um, yeah, so um, in AP Classroom, I realized that there were the international test also had its own FRQs. So I released those FRQs as well in AP Classroom, in addition to the multiple choice tests. So if you want more FRQs to look at, they're in AP Classroom. But I think most students are going to probably feel um, like maybe we've done enough for response and just want to do more multiple choice. So the 2017 to 2019 are available if you want to do practice there. Um, Many of you guys already picked up the handouts I made available yesterday, which was the 2016 um, multiple choice test. 2016 full test, as well as 2024 FRQ. The 2016, I recorded that last year as the help session on Sunday. So you can find that under Sunday's date, 2016, the key, and then you'll see the video link there. But for this Sunday, I'm just going to work through the 2024 AB FRQ. So if you hadn't had a chance to pick it up, I'll put it on the chair so you can pick those up. Is there anything else? All right, I mentioned to some of us before that watch out for related rates. Um, Anytime you see a mention about find the rate of change with respect to time, and let's say this equation was given to you, right? It's asking for find the rate of change of this with respect to time. That's indication that you're going to be dealing with related rates. And if you're dealing with related rates, whatever variable you see in the equation, you're going to be producing a d over dt for that variable. So for instance, A's derivative will be dt. W got to go through power rule first, so it would be 2/3 W to the -1/3. And then don't forget, W also produces its own variable with respect to time. So if you see any d over dt's mentioned in the equation, or there's a mention about find the rate of change with respect to time, then you're going to be expecting to build your derivative with time in mind. And then every variable is going to have a d over dt for that variable show up. So to be aware of that, I think that's the hardest part. If you can get to this equation, then everything feels a lot easier because everything in the problem will have enough data where you just plug in and you're solving for just a missing variable. have different things scattered across different sheets here. Let me see if I can find some more. So, okay. I found this just across different things here. Um, oh, sometimes a problem is trying to get you to apply mean value theorem without actually saying it's mean value theorem. So the way that they can get you to indicate, or the way they can indicate there's average mean value theorem is when they say things like this. At what time does the instantaneous velocity or the instantaneous rate of change is equal to the average rate of change? So if you ever see this instantaneous rate of change equals average rate of change, or instantaneous velocity equals average velocity, that they're trying to get you to use this mean value theorem, say that we're going to be equal to the slope. So just watch out for those wordings. Sometimes they're a little bit, um, they're not as clear as you would like them to be, but saying this phrase is basically describing mean value theorem. If a problem asks you for a horizontal tangent line, uh, or a vertical tangent line, both those things come from the derivative. And if you're trying to look for a horizontal tangent line, you're going to set the numerator of the derivative equal to 0. If you're trying to find the vertical tangent line, that's going to be the denominator of your derivative equal to 0. Oh, here's something. Sometimes you may get a multiple choice question where they ask you for the derivative of a messy log function. And if you see a problem like that, don't jump into the derivative. Go through your log expansion first. So for instance, we have, if I have y is equal to natural log of AB over C, I can break that down into natural log of A plus natural log of B minus natural log of C. And we can do that for here as well. We can say natural log of x squared plus natural log of x minus 1 to the 1/2 minus natural log of x minus 1. And then you can bring all the exponents down and then do u prime over u for each of them, and that will get you to the derivative. So if you see a log or natural log problem and they ask you for the derivative, consider taking advantage of the log properties. Expand it all out first before you commit to all your derivative rules. Watch out for implicit differentiation, right? If they're asking you for the derivative and you see y's mixed into the equation, or there's multiple y's, then you got to do your dy dx. You got to keep track of your dy dx's as you find your derivative. Yeah.
Take a picture.
Yeah. Um, Yeah, I do think that for response questions, even though it feels more intimidating, it's also more predictable. We kind of know how the setup's gonna look, we know what type of how they're going to ask a lot of these questions. Multiple choice uh, uh, feels less intimidating because, you know, we have all these uh, safety nets of all those answer choices in front of us, but it's also covering a wider range of topics and it's less predictable. You don't know exactly what you're going to see. Sometimes you can see some problems that just feel like, you know, you don't know how to start, or you haven't seen that topic in a while. So yeah, just make your best guess when it comes to the problems that just feels a little bit out of out of left field. Any questions? Uh, as far as packets go, if you're senior, you can turn in your packets as late as next Monday or Tuesday, and there's no penalty. I just would like to have all your packets by next Tuesday since senior grades are due. But if you're not a senior, then you can take your time and turn it in to me later next week. Okay, if you haven't had a chance to pick up the additional resources and would like it, then the tests are here. The 2016 full test and the 2024 FRQ. Then come and get your phones. If you have any individual questions, I'd be happy to spend the rest of the class going over any problems you have. Okay. Let me mark you down.
Now you turn in, no, this is it. Monday after.
Sounds good? Yeah, no problem.
This is- No. Very with you?
Yeah, there works. Yeah, you can take this with you. Thanks. Yeah, I'll check it out now. So you can
Yeah, I can work on
yeah, just yeah. Yeah, just show this to me. You want to show it to me Monday or Tuesday? Yeah. So, yeah. Thank you.
42.